Hey, Cheryl, this is Dan. Cheryl, can you hear me?
All right, that might work a little better. I could hear you, but you couldn't hear me.
Yeah, I'm going to run this meeting via Zoom.
Yep.
Okay.
We're still waiting for a forum.
Let me know when you want to start.
Yeah, we've got to have a few more people. Two more people would be good, then we can start.
One. Got it.
On the website, for the inspection schedule stuff, and it's being sent it. Okay, this is.
So we have-
Yeah,
give us
or I'm
a-
emailing the print. The whole app too.
Good afternoon.
Thought it was late, but I guess it's not. We're in time. This.
Okay, he didn't sound like he was in the.
Is that an old one?
Egg. I guess I don't want egg.
It works around the windows.
Where do you want this?
Maybe they keep killing those boxes off.
Did they get another one? Remember I mentioned them and now,
You're like, what do I do with this?
where did this one get?
There's more on the windows, so.
There's, you see the,
Oh.
I get in the habit of this, but then I forget to charge it.
my employee
Then I get here next day,
with the tractor and manure.
You've got a
No.
light right over the top there too. that you're-
I know, my cord's at home.
Across from the golf
Because the way I
course.
had it plugged in at home, it's like down behind the
Greenhouse is right
thing.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That little
I
knob
wish I
there.
get another one.
Yeah, but it's not.
Yeah.
Owns the farm. Back from the field.
Right, yeah, you gotta go on, so we can start.
Took the guy's mailbox out across the road, right into the pine trees. Broke the pine tree right over.
We have a medical emergency or
He
something?
passed out.
Dan,
Did.
And.
Run over to Bud's real quick.
Yeah.
I want to
Checked
down.
out.
I know.
Supervisor Moore.
I'm here.
Okay, you got a quorum. Then you guys can get rolling.
Renee?
All righty. Good afternoon, everyone. This is December 1st, our planning committee for the month of November. We have a relatively short agenda today, so I'm going to do this remotely, and I think we can get through it fairly quickly. First item on the agenda is an FYI. The December committee meeting, which would be on the 29th of this month, will not be changed this year. So we will be meeting on the 29th. Next item, the IDA annual report. It's the IDA and the WBAC 2021 annual report. And I see Mr. Pierce is handing those out to everyone. So Jim, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right, good afternoon. I want to thank the planning committee for allowing me to come in to give our annual report of the IDA and the Business Assistance Corporation. This is an annual obligation that we have to go over and make sure we communicate with the planning committee the success of our economic development efforts over the last year, which ended in September for us. I'm not going to read word for word everything that's in here, because as Dan said, it's a short meeting. So the opening page is just kind of a summary that I put together based on my perspective of how the year went. Ironically, you would think that with the pandemic that things were going to be very dark and bleak. The IDA had the busiest year that we've had in over a decade. There were a number of projects that we worked on, ranging from hospitality and tourism to renewable energy to warehousing projects. And so overall, it was a very, very busy year for us. And I want to congratulate our staff and our board of directors for the work that we were able to accomplish together. On page 2, you can see there's a bar chart that shows the project activity with a year-by-year breakdown. The next page, on page 3, are another bar graph showing kind of the level of capital investment based on the projects. Then we break into some of the success stories for the year. Obviously, the micro hotel is a success story that told many times. $6 million project, 15 jobs created, and our first branded hotel here in Wyoming County. JC Equipment Rentals is the actually Coal Building Solutions, AKA, and they knocked down the former Broder building and built a brand new facility that really looks nice. So the first 2 projects that we highlighted in the annual report not only were new builds, but they also removed 2 significant blights on the community here in Wyoming County. So we're particularly proud of those. In Orangeville, the IDA board also approved and supported the Orangeville Energy Storage Project. It's getting very, very close to getting done. It's a 20 megawatt project, a total of almost $12 million of capital investment. The board also approved the Alley Wind project, in which there's going to be 13 turbines located in the town of Arcade for their portion of it. The remaining turbines are going to be located in the counties of Allegheny and Cattaraugus. Cheryl has a couple more people that walk in.
Yep.
So the portion of the wind project for LA Cat is going to be built in Wyoming County alone is almost $73 million. Board also approved the Duke Energy project in the town of Bennington, a 20 megawatt facility has not yet been built, a $24 million project. We did 4 individual solar projects in the town of Pike. They are all relatively small. Collectively, they're about 12.6 megawatts. And those are currently under construction. Board also approved the Sun East Highview Solar Project in the town of Castile. We're still working on trying to get that to a close. That's going to be a 20 megawatt project. And in addition, a $20 million capital investment in the county. I think when you think about economic development, you try to encourage capital investment. It makes it harder for companies to leave. So we've had some significant capital investment done here in the county over the past year. We also approved the new building for Mike Kelly, his warehouse project in the town of Perry. The building is up, not quite finished, but working through some local permitting issues yet to get things rectified. We supported Hillcrest Industries in Attica. They put up a beautiful warehouse. One of the things we're seeing is a kind of an increase of warehouse projects. I think some of it's related to the supply chain issue where people are wanting to warehouse and bring in more inventory, keep more inventory on hand so that you don't have that disruption in the supply chain and you don't have those lag times on delivering to your customers. So the Hillcrest warehouse project was a $900,000 project. And we also supported the Dream Lake Campground expansion project, which is underway in the town of Warsaw. They're going to be adding some new sites, some cabins, and some bathhouses. We had a lot of activity during the year for campgrounds, and it was primarily related to the pandemic and people wanting to get out in rural areas with open spaces so that they can enjoy their families and be together. So the Dream Lake Campground is an example of that as well. Harold Draskow has gone through another expansion project with support from the IDA. He's put up a new building of 66 feet by 66 feet. We also approved a small project over in the Village of Perry called Lexworth Base Camp. It's a project that Mike Bellamy is working on to take a couple buildings that have a combined assessed value of $31,000 and convert them into 2 facilities that can serve not only for retail, more additional retail on Main Street, but also some residential properties above that. Lexworth Valley Campground is a project that the IDA also has supported. We still have yet to go through the final approval on that. They're working with the local zoning and permitting process. But we did approve a loan for them from our BAC Corporation, and that project is going to be converting a former church camp into a campground and resort. So it's going to be a pretty good sized project, $1.2 million worth of capital investment in the town of Pike. Page 13, we have some projects that we've listed that are in the pipeline. Another solar project for the town of Casado called Silver Lake Solar. Company on Perry's Main Street called TTI Light Industrial. That's a millwright company that is looking to build a new building up at their property that they own next to the racetrack on Avery End Road. Steel Avenue, Parcel B land in Arcade, where we had that land sale almost to the finish line for a brand new Holiday Inn Express hotel, 77 rooms when the pandemic hit. The company is still in communication with us. They're still interested in doing the project. They're just still waiting for the economy to kind of straighten out a little bit with this pandemic, and that the banks will begin looking at financing hospitality industries again, which they have really kind of tightened up the purse strings on for hospitality industries. Another project the IDA is going to be working on, it's not in this report, is a warehouse project for Morton Salt over in Silver Springs, 30,000 square foot warehouse. So that's pretty much what the IDA has been working on over the year. As I said, it's been an extremely good year for project and economic growth. On page 15, we have combined the Business to Business Corporation report into the annual report as well. The BAC is responsible primarily for providing lending. Since the IDA cannot lend, the BAC serves as a lending arm for the IDA. We have a number of loan programs that we administer through that, including a revolving loan fund, a gain loan fund. So on page 16, we've listed a few of those loans that are committed. Calcana, again, that's the Dreamland Campground, Lexworth Valley Campground in Pike. We have been requested by the Arcade Attica Railroad to provide them with a grant anticipation note or a grant that they're going to be receiving from the federal government to improve a Route 98, Doug, is that where it is? Yeah. So they want to improve the safety of where the train crosses the road there. So on page 17, we talk about a couple more projects that aren't quite to the finish line. Here, Justice Brewing is going to be the first microbrewery in Arcade. They have received actually approval from the IDA, and they also received a portion of our GAIN loan fund, which is based on agricultural businesses, since they're going to be buying and using components or ag commodities that are grown in New York State that were eligible for that. That's so they received a loan in the neighborhood of $150,000 at 1% interest for 10 years. So, and now below that is the New York State Home and Community Renewal Grant that the county has secured $300,000 of. We're getting ready to roll that out and make micro enterprise grants to small businesses that are either low to moderate income owners or making jobs available to someone with low to moderate income needs. So I won't go into any more details, Mr. Chairman, on that. I think it's always of interest to show the planning committee, however, on page 21 is kind of a quick synopsis of all the projects that are in a lease. Some of them that have been put back on the tax rolls because they have terminated their leases because they expired. And pending projects, so there's a list there, and then there's a whole list of our loan portfolio that we carry. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I would be glad to open it up to any questions anybody may have. But like I said, it's been really a terrific year for us. And, I want to thank the board and the board of supervisors.
Okay, it's like, that's like the third time that's jumped out there today. Thanks.
It grows legs.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Am I gonna want? What is a gain loan?
Stands for rural or agricultural industry now. It was originally a $650,000 grant that we got as part of a regional grant through the Genesee Finger Lakes Regional Planning. And it's primarily used for ag businesses that are looking to diversify, do some value add stuff on the farm, maybe looking at acquiring some more land or whatever it might be. We do maximum loans of up to $200,000 when the loan is fully replenished. Right now, it's depleted down to almost zero, but it's been very popular. And like I said, the interest rates on the loans are 1%, and they're for a 10-year period. So we've done loans for Table Rock Farms for their methane capture project. We did a loan for Whispering Brook Farms, the maple producer. We did one for the genetics business over at Glenwood. So it's been, like I said, and then we did the Beer Justice program as well. So it's been a very, very popular program and very attractive interest rates. It comes in as gap financing with a bank. There always has to be a bank in a lead position before we get involved with money on any of our programs, actually.
So the grant has, you use that money and it just automatically renew, or do you have to reapply to get a new?
We have tried to get it recapitalized. The money originally came from New York State. It wasn't grant. So the thinking is we'll just keep revolving it. So once those loans keep getting paid, it goes right back in again. So the $150,000 that we committed to Beer Justice over at Arcade pretty much completed the fund down to zero. We got the other loan that we did is the Boxler facility that they're building for Maple, also up on 28 Berry Street.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Jim? Okay. Thanks, Jim. Appreciate the update and the report.
Thank you.
Next on the agenda is an update on the activities for the MK site cleanup project. So you got something to provide?
Thank you. I just wanted to update the board on where we are with the project. We have spent the last month and a half working with a team on putting together an EPA grant application for a $500,000 grant to clean up the former cheese plant that's located on Church Street in the village of Arcade. The site is a brownfield. There's underground petroleum on the site, and there's asbestos scattered throughout the site. So we worked to pull together a team that includes Labella and Associates Engineering out of Buffalo, and then we have worked to have a designated developer agreement worked out with a private developer that's interested in redeveloping the site and possibly, if they secure the work, do the remediation of it as well. So the EPA grant that we've been working on for the last month and a half was submitted this morning. Thank goodness, and now it's kind of a wait and see. The announcements aren't made until like April or May, but we're holding out hope that that we will get that funding. And Mr. Chairman, as you know, because you sit on the WCBC board along with Mr. Brick, that this was a project that was supported by the Business Center Board, and they have also committed a cash cost sharing measure of $50,000 to go with the grant, along with a cost share being committed by the private developer, which is Frontier Global Companies out of Buffalo. So all good news is that we're making some progress, and we just gotta keep our fingers crossed that we get a grant. One of the key things we had with the application process is Lobella and Associates last year hired a former EPA Region 2 person on their staff, and she actually served as the quarterback on the grant writing. So we're pretty optimistic that we have put together a really solid grant, and time will tell.
That's great news, Jim. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else for Mr. Pierce? Okay, if not, thanks, Jim. Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, the planning.
Okay, next on the agenda is Mr. James Bragg. And the first item is to do a reappointment to the Wyoming County Planning Board. This is to appoint Robert Gadd from the town of Bennington to a new 3-year term effective January 1st, 2022 through December 31st, 2024. Okay, I would enter. Oh, thank you, Supervisor Brunner. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. All right, James, you're up. Broadband and census count.
Yes, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. I just have two important updates. First, regarding our Census 2020 numbers. I've been in regular contact with Megan Kindleman. She is the National Field Director for the U.S. Census Bureau regarding some of the oddities in our numbers. What we will need to do is a census count question resolution. That is scheduled to start on January 3rd of the new year. Unfortunately, they have yet to release how this operation will be launched, so we don't have any forms. They're not even sure exactly how they're going to operate it. So that has been cloudy, and like I said, I've been in regular contact with Megan, and she's just asked for our patience. Hopefully it'll be released sometime this month. So that will be very important. I will keep everyone up to date as that progresses.
Oh, now, James, would we have to have a formal resolution on the part of the county in order to contest the results?
Absolutely. When we get to that point, absolutely, yes.
Okay. So I'm sure we can get some kind of boilerplate. We're not the only county, I'm certain, who's encountered this issue, right?
No, nearly every county within my counterparts and in the Finger Lakes region, they also are going to be following CQRs regarding.
Okay. So as soon as you have more specifics, you can get them to us, and we can get a resolution in place.
Yes, sir. And one of my goals starting next year is prior to committees, I'll be doing a written report, so you get it all in advance for statistics. You can ask, so if anything jumps out to you, questions or concerns, you'll have it in advance of the committee meeting.
All right, thank you.
Is that correct? Like town of Perry, you're supposed to get so many incarcerated people?
It will. It's a correction. These actual Census 2020 numbers are frozen or baked in. What we'll do is add an asterisk saying there is an issue, and it corrects it going forward. So 2021, 2022. So we won't, it looks forward, it doesn't look backwards.
And how does that impact the review of the way to go?
Well, that is, we don't, there was a NISAC meeting with the Benjamin Center. So updating that 2023 usually would be the first year you'd start to seriously entertain that. And the Benjamin Center has reached out to us regarding helping with that weighted vote. So you have experts doing that.
We're used to doing it about the year after, but because of the issues with the census, it's gonna take us into about 2023 before we can update that weighted vote.
And again, there's 13 counties that have a board of supervisor system of county government. They're in a similar situation. So that was the findings from ISAC that they were all the same predicament. And then the second issue is with broadband. Right now, the only data we have for broadband is the FCC 477 maps. And they're flawed, they're broken, they don't work. And the reason why that is that it's based on census blocks. So if there's one person in your census block that has access to broadband, the assumption is everyone in that census block has access. Well, that might work in an urban area such as Buffalo, Brooklyn, it obviously doesn't work in Miami County. And that has been a problem. As a result, the New York State Empire State Development and the Department of Public Services has contracted with ECC Technologies to do mapping and assessment of our broadband. So we'll document where the infrastructure is currently located and model where it needs to go and come up with engineering reports on how to do that. It'll be very specific to address this. We will have that GIS data also and share that with us. That's advantageous to go forward to applying for grant funding for both state and federal grants to show you exactly this is where we need it and this is how we can do it. Right now we lack that information. So there's two parts for what ECC is doing. One, they're doing a mapping where they'll take all of the known telephone, cable information that we have. And then they go out and physically check. So this will be extremely accurate. And then from there, they'll provide a map of who has broadband and who doesn't. It doesn't address the issue of speed, and that's the second part, is a resident survey. So residents will be coming up with a web page and QR code to help disseminate this survey to all the residents of Miami County, so that people will do this survey from their home. So they'll show what the speed is. In cases in which people don't have access to broadband, this is something the deficiency of their model is that they assume people would have cell phone. Many people don't have broadband, might not have internet on their cell phone. So we'll be coming up with a paper hard copy of that survey. We're coming up with strategies of how to get this information out to get people. So it's really important that we have people fill out the survey. Also, as a check, it's address based. So if there's an address, a house, a business they missed, and they're mapping, this is a safeguard to that. Again, these are important because it gets us the data we need for justification for grants. It defines what we need and where we need it. And it's, our ultimate goal is to get download speeds of at least 100 megabits per second. So that is, we're working with ECC, the consultants right now. It'll have a hard start January 3rd of the new year. So right now we're coming up with how to get the survey out. Again, we will have a web page specific to Miami County and even QR code. It's like that code where you scan on your phone and it takes you directly to that survey.
So this ECC is a company that we're contracting with, a consulting company?
Yes, yes. So they're doing all 62 counties. They're about halfway done. They began in the urban, larger counties because it's easier.
Are they hired by the state
They're
or?
hired by the Department of Public Service.
Okay.
So they're
This ECC has done work for us before.
absolutely, yes, very familiar.
Been working on this broadband a long time. In fact, I think, what was it, the fiber optic was what they were working at. That was
they anticipate they'd be done by May of 2022. We'll have all the maps by beginning of summer, and hopefully from there, we can, the rounds for grant funding from the infrastructure bill will commence sometime in fall, with anticipated, results, unfortunately, not until 2023.
Sounds good, James.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Anything else for James? All right, we'll move right along then. Next up is Don Roberts. Give us the monthly report and update on the zoning consolidation grant.
Monthly report should be attached. The questions on that. This takes us up through the end of October, 283 permits. Our totals are a little over 115,000 coming in so far. Expenses to date, 106. So these are levied at 8,300. And that's it. You're stating out the units there, you can break down the revenue versus expenses. If you have any questions on that. As you can hear from Jim Pierce's report, we've been busy with a bunch of substantial projects that we all can work together on those to get involved with all those expansions that Jim's talking about. We're dealing with. So it's been a really busy year. And we have a number of projects that we did some other larger projects that we're probably working on the zoning phases through the winter. So we should be busy with some other pretty substantial projects in the winter time here too. Okay.
Okay, thanks.
Great. And then an update on the zoning consolidation grant. We're going to try and close out that grant in the next month or two here. I did reach out to Genesee Finger Lakes and asked them if they have any idea as to what kind of monies, if any, we're going to realize at the end of this grant. We're down to like year 6. They haven't gotten back to any numbers yet, but as soon as I find out what it is, I'll let you know. Okay.
Okay.
Done some staffing. Like one zoning official, John Bartlett, is out now on maternity leave, so I doubt we'll be without her for the next 3 months. So we do have all these new projects do come in here through the winter. We'll be busy with Nicole and myself doing those filling in. So plug away at those best we can. And that's about all I have for the zoning stuff. I do have one thing to add for the ag center though.
Okay.
NRCS has reached out to us. The numbers getting high enough right now that they may force them to do remote at home. They have asked if we had another area within the ag center that they can use so that not all of them need to work from home. They're thinking LC5 would be a good location for them to fill in. There would be 3 or 4 staff. I'm getting together with IT right now to find out what our internet capabilities are to provide them with internet other than the Wi-Fi. The Wi-Fi in the basement is slower than molasses. As soon as I hear back from IT if that is doable, they would be asking permission to use that room until they're able to return back to their office. So I'm not sure we're at the IT answer yet, but just so you're aware of that question's out there. So they're that they're get some internet and the internet stuff, the room's hardwired for it. It's just that it would be a physical connection to port into their box instead of where ours is. If that's doable, the IT says it's getting done. Are we okay with letting them use LC5 or it could be one, it could be your You know, how long we've done this now. Dealing with it.
No question.
Was that again?
NRCS federal,
USDA.
FSA too, or just NRCS?
just NRCS.
I think there's only two of them.
Yeah.
The question I had, is it a social spacing question, or they just aren't allowed to use that office
Allows
space?
occupied with federal space.
Federal program.
In the same office, like fire service.
So FSA is not going to be working in there either?
I'm not sure which agencies, but anybody who's at that level of government, it's gonna apply to one and apply to all of them. So before they had to vacate that space, they were working remotely from home. So they just have, if it was doable, and we were able to use another room for them to do it for a while. But we don't know what the length of time is gonna be, so I just don't wanna make sure it's clear on the length.
I mean, is it okay with their superiors? I mean, they're not gonna get fired if they find out that they're working someplace else.
I talked to Brett about it, and they're okay with that being done. And it's, you know, it's 3 or 4 employees. However, they're loophole, I'm not sure, but that's their question to us.
Well, this is a short-term need, right?
Well, until they get cleared to go back or occupy their office, but like I said, and you know how long this has been, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be a month, it could be 2 months, it could be another year. I don't know. I don't anticipate it to be that long. We didn't anticipate any of it.
Is there a spot back in back of where the cooperative extension is? Because there's some offices that aren't being used back there.
There is, they just asked about space, so we're just, you know, assuming that.
I'm just thinking that might be a better,
Maybe after petitions.
and there's still some petitions up.
They'll have the same problem no matter where they are in the exit about internet access. Who's are we using? How are we getting it there? Like I said, a Wi-Fi is not gonna be enough for them to do their work.
It's not gonna interfere with our employees.
You know,
They're gonna,
we have nothing going on in LC5. We get a little overflow down there once in a while, but
we got reimbursed for the use of that space.
well, I didn't ask them that. That's why I'm talking to you guys.
Well, I mean, the activity is consistent with the Ag Center, right?
It's still at the Ag Center. I mean, obviously there's still decent space.
Yeah. Sure.
I guess it doesn't matter which one it is. I don't.
I know we had quite a time commitment over there as far as getting, you know, when the federal government had the lease, like directed with
Yeah.
Kowski and that with us. We take a phone call to Schuler's office, I think to get it straightened out, didn't it?
If, I mean, if,
They were already renting from Bertowski. That's what it was, if I remember right, because,
Down there.
yeah, so he held that lease, so he kept that lease with them and then moved in there. I think that's what happened.
I mean, if Bill Sykes is kind of short-staffed too, if it's gonna cause him more work and,
Yeah, that's why I wanted to get the answers from IT first, because there's no way we can move their internet over. I don't know how they're gonna work out of that space.
and how, and if, even if it's, I'm sure it's doable, but what's it gonna take to do that? Is he gonna have to run lines?
That's what I have to find out. If this is something that's easily done, I guess the question is, you guys, is are we okay letting them use as long as the IT function part of it is still? Room's been hardwired for, like, build out space down there. So we ran hard wires up to the IT room, but they're not tied into anything. So in Jackson Law, they're dead ended up in the IT room. So if it's as simple as taking that wire, plugging it into their internet box in that location, it's as easy as that. Shouldn't be no hard thing to do. If it's not, it's more complicated. I think it will be no.
I don't understand it. Doesn't make much sense to me. I mean, how many people are in that office anyways?
Just Jim and that new girl, I think.
Maybe 4
Well,
tops?
when they're at full staff, they have as many as 8 in it.
There's never a full staff in there though.
They do a lot of field work, so they're like Jim's in and out a lot. Like he spends a lot of time in the field, so he's not there a lot.
Well, they work a lot with soil and water, so they should probably
They do.
be the same building.
That's the other problem, is that they're so affiliated with everything that goes on in soil and water. The two are working hand in hand. I mean, everybody on the second floor is working off each other's foot traffic. I mean, even, you know, zoning does too. I mean, zoning works very close with soil and water and NRCS, because every time a farmer wants to do something, it affects zoning, soil and water, and federal.
I think it is, we renovated that space a while ago, and it hasn't been occupied at all.
No. No. That's the only other room that we did split there for Gerald Cummings and, you know, we split that room in half. That's the only other room down there that has the acoustics based in the ceiling. You guys are wrong. Yep. And again, we hardwired that and tied right into hers. She had that piped into the building. See, it's in the building, it's same with them. We just gotta tie it in.
What's your pleasure?
I'm not,
I mean-
we just talked this morning at Ag about Ryan County being the agricultural county, you know. And here, this is, what's the agriculture? I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I don't see any issue with it either. I mean, it's consistent with what is being done in the building, right? So we still want to,
You want to review this in 3 months?
No, it's going.
well, whether, are they doing this as part of a COVID response? Is that why they're doing this or not?
Supposed to be working from home.
Okay,
Yeah, it's part of their the COVID restrictions. So as numbers increase, they're afraid what's gonna happen is they're gonna force them to work remotely in the near future. And if that happens, they have no
okay,
building that's not occupying federal space in, they're okay to go there, is my understanding. And that they're gonna have employees so they don't have to work from home, they can keep their workflow moving.
all right, that makes sense.
They understand that there's not going to be any copiers or anything like that available to them.
No, I left them, I said, occupy the space, we need to know how many, so they said 3 or 4. You're gonna need IT, you're gonna need internet, absolutely. See exactly the obstacle we have to cross. Other than that, we're not moving any other additional equipment. You need to roll your own copier downstairs for direct use from your computer, great, but the county's obligation would be just to allow you to use the space. Make sure your internet connection.
Sure. And make sure they have the internet connection, right?
Yep, yep.
Yeah, that seems straightforward enough.
Make a motion.
Oh, okay, so you want to, we'll put it to a vote then. All right, so I have a motion from Supervisor Berwinger to allow, if I say right, occupy this space in room 5.
And then have it reviewed in 3 months, say?
Yeah, we can go back to it, sure.
Fine.
Hopefully it's never heard of again, right?
All right,
Yeah, by then from COVID
It'll be fixed.
This is just an in case thing, right?
It's just an in case they just need a fallback spot right now. They haven't been,
Yeah.
but they're anticipating it, and they want us to be ahead of that curve if that happens. You know, the very next day they got to right? So that's
Sure.
So, and if something changes in the meantime, if something happens sooner or later, I mean, if it's an off committee meeting time, I'll give you back a call or something, let you guys know.
well, I applaud them for being proactive.
Yeah.
Make sure Mike and Zach knows.
Yeah, I called Mike and I called IT together because Mike did the hardwiring for the room build out space. And then I had to call IT. When we did that, to begin with all those tie-ins, obviously Todd and Tom was around, not now build this. So, you know, but I got them both together. So we're putting part of that build out and the construction of the building, you know, we're all involved with each other. So.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. All right. Okay, thank you, Don.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Let's see, moving on in the agenda, we have Ag and Business Center. And this is to amend resolution number 21-311 to correct the contract with Quadient Leasing USA to reflect the following revisions. Authorize the chairwoman to sign the contract pursuant to general municipal law for a lease agreement with Quadient of Dallas, Texas for Neo postage machine, which is located in the Ag and Business Center. Amount not to exceed $165.41 per month. And a service agreement for standard care service plan with Lineage of Amherst, New York, in the amount not to exceed $57 per month, both for a term of 63 months, effective upon delivery.
That seems pretty steep, $220 a month.
What was it? I don't know.
That is the. This is the machine. And Lineage is for maintenance. And it's been in place for some time.
For how much? Same or less?
So this is what happened. They have their postage machine over there. But there's two companies that we're dealing with. One is for the lease of the machine itself. Okay. The
Yep.
other is for a service agreement. That's Lineage.
Right.
When that first came through, we didn't have both pieces. We only had one half of the equation. When they went to start paying some bills, that's when they discovered that part of it's coming through as Quadient, and the other part is coming through as Lineage, and they needed both pieces in order to pay both vendors. So this is basically housekeeping to clean that up. And this started in September.
Okay. Well, that makes sense.
Was the original like a total?
Yeah, I think so. Since then, so the original showed Quadient for $10,420.83 through August of 2026.
Okay. Looks like we got to do it, right?
Yeah. I mean, we've already got the machine, we're already using the machine.
Oh, sure.
I'll move it.
Okay. Thank you, Supervisor Brunner. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Next is to correct the department name from Planning and Development to Agriculture and Business Center.
That's all part of the same motion.
You want to put it under the same resolution?
It
Right.
is, because so that's all part of the Quadient. and
Got it.
It's all-
Got it. Okay, so just changing the name on the resolution.
Yep,
Got it. Okay, so everything else is the same.
right, because they have it in the planning department, and because everybody in the building uses the postage machine. And I guess we have a call center for Ag and Business Center, so it's being moved to the Ag and Business Center call center.
Got it. Okay,
Okay.
sounds good.
Okay.
All right. The only other thing on your agenda is the solid waste 2020 electronics collection report and the household hazardous waste collection project. You can look at those and read those at your leisure. I did have one other item though that I wanted to mention. We did our tours last Thursday and Friday of the county buildings. And I have to say, I think that was a very, very useful activity. It was a real eye opener in some locations. And there are some standouts, of course. I think we're in very good shape down at the Department of Social Services. Personally, I think that's a gorgeous building, and it's very well maintained and well organized. And that was the first time I had ever been in there personally, and I think they've done a nice job of keeping that place up to speed. Well, it is the newest county building, right? So that stands to reason. The other thing that impresses me, of course, every time I go there is records retention. I think, Gail has that down to a science down there, and it's incredibly well organized, and they're on top of it. There's no question about that. And, that requires a tremendous amount of attention to detail, and, she's got that knocked. So, but then there were some opportunities, I think. I'm sorry. There were some opportunities that I saw on the tour. I think, we have some opportunities in the area of IT. Those folks are kind of scattered throughout the building that you're in. And some are kind of tucked away in what I would consider almost to be crawl spaces, It's not that great. We should really think about how we can consolidate our IT folks into a more usable permanent location that they could have. The other thing is health department. They are just bursting at the seams down at the health department, and it was readily apparent when we were in there. They've got materials stored in exam rooms down there, and it's a neat. I almost looked at that and I said, wow, you could almost come in there and maybe re-engineer the whole workspace, but they need some room down there. And there are some ideas that we can kick around or how to do that, but those are the two that stood out. I'd be anxious to hear what the impressions were from the other members of the planning committee who went on the tour as well.
This is Stan, mental health and nightmare.
Yeah.
Were you listening this morning? What was it, in public health, Dan?
No, I wasn't.
So there was a discussion regarding maybe other opportunities.
Remember a lot of it.
I wasn't going to mention any names or anything.
It's on executive session, so.
In consolidating other departments type thing.
Yeah, we can have those discussions, Angela, at some juncture in the near future. But I wanted to get Cheryl just sent me the narratives from all of our observations and notes from the tours. And I wanted to get those out to folks and make sure that we had the opportunity to kind of talk through those, and then set up some sessions with the department heads where we can kind of kick around some ideas. But I mean, the only other area that kind of struck me too was mental health. That's a leased building, but it's getting tired. I know that they're going through some discussions now about a new lease agreement. That could probably use a little bit of work down there. But all in all, I think it was a very worthwhile exercise to go through, because you get to see firsthand exactly what these department heads are facing in terms of, their space. So I think it was very worthwhile. I know Supervisor Granger, you mentioned to me that, when we were on the tour, that it was a good activity to undertake. So. Okay.
This is Brian. I agree with it. It was a good showing of what we got. The only other comment to what you said about mental health and the health department. Emergency services has extraordinary amount of extra space up there.
Yes.
There's a lot of ways of space up there.
At the fire training center.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, they do. They have a lot of the materials stored up there, and they have the cold storage building, which I don't know. It's
Only half full.
there's a lot of room there. Yep.
I was really surprised that emergency services facilitate, use that facility as often as they do. And again, I'm thinking, well, maybe there's an opportunity there instead of, just allowing anybody to come into the place, but maybe to rent it out. Just an idea.
No, look, I mean, you make a good point, Angela, because there are, I think, 4 counties who utilize that, including state and federal agencies as well, who use the range up there. So, yeah. But,
I'm sorry, it should have set us.
Yeah, of course.
It should have set us up very well for grant funding, I would think, too.
I agree. I totally agree, Becky. But we didn't get the money.
I know.
Yeah.
We'll try again.
Good. So I think we now have a kind of a big picture view of the county in terms of the space that's being utilized. And I think we're in a much better position now to make some conscious choices about how to use our funding streams to address those. So it was important that we get kind of everybody on the same playing field and the same page in terms of their observations. But I thought it was a very worthwhile exercise. So, and I want to thank the department heads for providing individual narratives and hosting those tours. We really appreciate it.
And there are still several buildings that the supervisors haven't toured, and over the next couple of months, we're gonna try to get the committees in through the committee cycle.
Okay, good idea. All right. That's all I had. Does anyone have anything else for planning? Then I guess we're adjourned. Thank you.
Ooh.